Alright, so the reason why I'm making this video is because my motorcycle actually started leaking a lot of oil from the starter case, and when I took it apart I realized that it was two gaskets. Well, only one of them, but I decided to go ahead and replace both of them. So the first one that I got was a 35 by 52 by 61 millimeters, I guess, and it would be this one right here. This one you can find it at, wait, let me see if I can get it to focus, any like automotive store for super cheap. But the other one, which is a little tiny one, was actually more expensive. So for the bigger one I paid about I believe like $6, and then for this one I couldn't find it anywhere, so I had to buy it online, and it was about $10. So if you compare these, you can see that one of them is a lot smaller than the other one. Alright, so I'm gonna be installing the bigger one right now in the case, since I already took it apart and it's all ready to be installed. I already cleaned all the surfaces, and I also have the gaskets, and I'm gonna be showing you guys how I'm gonna be installing them. Okay, so this one just goes like that, and then you wanna push it in evenly, and then we're gonna get something to push it in as well. Alright, so this might not work because this thing is pretty long. We need a bigger one. Oh, too big. I doubt that this will work, but nope. Okay, so I think this might work perfect. Now I'm gonna push it in. Okay. I believe that it's in all the way, but just let me double check that, because it looks like it's not. Okay, so it finally looks like it went all the way in. Okay, so I finally finished installing the gasket right there, and then this gasket is considered like part of the starter system, and this is the tinier one, the one that I paid $10 for. So I'm gonna make sure that I install this one good as well. So I'm gonna start by pushing it in with my hand, and then see what I can find around to push it in. Probably a socket like in this, probably a socket in this outer edge right here. And then for the people that want to do this as well, the measurements for this gasket are 22, 31 times 5. I'm gonna be finished installing this gasket, and all I have to do is put this socket in the outer edges, because if you put it in the middle right here, it's gonna get messed up and it's not gonna seal properly. So you put it right there, and then you tap it lightly, and I'm feeling that it's going in. Okay, so now it's a bit more flush, and it's supposed to sit like that, so it's all ready. Okay, so now back to putting back the bike together. So now that I cleaned the surface and everything is ready, I cleaned all the surfaces, so I also cleaned this thing, and I have the gaskets right here for it. I'm gonna begin installing them, and hopefully it has them. Okay, so I ran into another issue. As I was looking for all the gaskets from this kit, it actually doesn't come with every single one of them, and it only has one for one side, and this piece actually requires two, so a smaller one would go here, but it didn't come with that one, which I find kind of strange. So I'm gonna have to be making my own right here. So I'm gonna use this RTV. It's a high temperature RTV silicone gasket maker. It's from Visvela. I never heard of them, but this is what I have on hand, and it's for high temperature, resist oil, water, and antifreeze, and it's safe for all models according to this thing. So let's get started with this. I already pierced the hole through this. I just need to cut the tip off. Now we hand tighten it since the silicone is still wet, and after we hand tighten it, we wait 1 hour for the silicone to dry and then tighten the bolts to the specified torque. And then after 24 hours of the whole curing time, that's when we can fill it up with the liquids like the oil or antifreeze or whatever you want to put into it. This specific gasket maker that I have is not meant for gasoline, so don't use it on that. So we'll get started with this. So do you guys see all these chambers in here, I guess you could call them? These are actually what I was talking about. No oil actually goes in there, and that's just empty space. But before I install this, I actually want to clean it a bit. Now we go ahead and install it. This should go like that. It simply just goes like that. And now we start putting in the screws. Something that I realized is that some of the RTB might actually go into the screw hole, so I'm gonna get a Q-tip and try to get it out of there. Okay, I'm back. So I'm gonna try to get the RTB out of the chambers from right here, because that's gonna make it difficult for the screws to torque to the proper specifications. Okay, that wasn't so bad. So I'm on the last one. Alright, so I'm finally gonna start putting everything back together, but the thing is that I don't really recall how most of these parts went, so we'll just figure it out as we go. The issue in this motorcycle was that that gasket had popped out and it was actually sitting on the outside of the lid. Let me show you guys. The gasket is supposed to sit right here on where my thumb is, but it was actually sitting all the way out here, and that's what made the motorcycle leak all the oil. This bolt didn't have thread lock in it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put it back on like this. But let me tell you guys how I actually removed this thing, because this thing in the beginning, it was a pin in the butt and I couldn't figure out how to remove it. So I was using a regular flywheel extractor, or like a extractor for pulleys, and it didn't work. Plus the one that I had was so broken, and I was trying to do it without the extractor, and then I found this extractor that my dad or I think it was me, we had stripped before, and it was like all stripped from this area, so it was useless. And I don't know why we decided to keep this piece, but we did. And then pretty much all this was stripped, so it was useless, so I decided to cut it in half where it wasn't stripped, so all this thread was good right here. So I cut it in half, and then I kind of tapered the edges right here with like the bench grinder. And then after I did that, I screwed, and luckily I got so lucky because I realized that this was the same thread, so it literally just screwed on like that. I did have a hard time removing this because the way that I was trying to do it was with like a leather belt, because I didn't have like the pulley thing to remove them, to hold it in place. And I tried to put a screwdriver through this. Putting the screwdriver through here worked to help me remove this thing. So okay, so I got it all torqued up, and I'm just gonna finish putting up these bolts before I head to work. So now I'm gonna be putting on the gasket. Oh no. So it looks like I'm gonna have to remove everything that I just did. Okay, so now that everything is tightened and ready to go, we're going to put all the bolts back on. And then make sure that these little plastics here are sitting properly, or else if there's any oil, it's gonna leak out again. So we're just gonna go like this. Okay, so this is a video after about 3 or 4 days. It has been raining a lot lately, as you guys can see from all the water all over the bike. The gasket that I made for the other side is fully cured by this time. I put the gasket back into its place and I tighten all the bolts properly. The only thing that I need to do is put the oil back in and then adjust this shifter right there. So that's what I'm gonna be working on before finalizing the little project that I started of replacing that gasket. Right now I'm charging the battery because it's been sitting here for so long that the battery has been dead for probably a couple months now, maybe like 1 or 2, maybe even more. So I actually used to ride this to school, but since my other car also broke, I have been taking one of my dad's cars, and I kind of just want to start riding my motorcycle again, and hopefully it doesn't rain as bad so I can actually start riding it again. Just giving it a quick clean. Hopefully it starts because it does have old gas. So right now I'm just gonna go ahead and put the oil. I'm gonna replace the oil because I had to drain it as well. And I'm gonna just be putting cheap oil right now, since I'm not even gonna be driving it that much, and probably I'll replace it once I make sure that it's running properly and it doesn't leak any more oil. So I'm putting 10W40 because that's what they recommend. And according to the manual, it says that the oil capacity is about 1.6 quarts, so a little bit over 1.5 quarts. So just dump one entire full one in there, and then it'll tell you right here. And now I'm just gonna wait till the battery charges to try to start it for the first time in months. Hopefully everything starts. I'm not really sure how it's gonna work out this time because it has been sitting here for a long time, and the battery was bad anyways, if you guys are wondering why it looks like that. Well, it doesn't really look like there's anything wrong, but it has a lot of oxidation and it looks really nasty from the terminal, so hopefully it works. So while the battery charged, I adjusted the shifter link, and something that I realized that is very important is that this dot on the shaft matches the dot on the shifter thing, or else your shifter is gonna be way out of place. Like in the beginning, I totally forgot about that because the little shaft was all covered in grease and I couldn't see the little dot. So my shifter ended up like being this high, and I tried shifting through the gears, and I was gonna start messing with this, with the link, but then I remember something about a dot and I was like, oh, I don't think I placed that properly. So I went back and I cleaned this a little bit and I matched the two dots, and now it shifts through every single link properly. I mean, every single gear. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it for you guys.